Hello and welcome once again to this channel. I hope you're having a great day, as usual. Today I have brought to you a tea that I like quite a bit. As a matter of fact, it is one of the most common Oolong teas that I drink on a daily basis. However, I don't drink this particular one. One of the most common teas that I drink is Shuixian, Narcissus, which is a very famous tea, hailing from, of course, Wuyishan. What I have for you today is a Laocong Shuixian, which is an old bush Shuixian. This tea often comes from mature, often decades-old bushes planted in cliffs, shaded crevices, and other areas within Wuyishan. So we'll go straight into tasting the. Well, first of all, let's take a look to appreciate the leaves. As you can see, this is a lighter roast tea, at least for what I would say are regular Yancha standards. I would say this is on the greener side. The roast is rather light. Now, what can we expect from this tea? What can we expect from this tea? Well, I believe that if I have to, just go with the flow and with the knowledge I have of regular Shuixian, we're going to expect that very floral forward aroma and taste, as well as a bit of a woody taste, but in a way that's more sweet than spicy. The counterpart for Shuixian is very often thought of as Wuyi. And of course, they're the two most common cultivars you'll find in Wuyishan, so that is why they're often kind of like, the most well known. So that's why we're going to expect taking like a different approach from the one you would find in Wuyi, which is more spice forward, that cinnamon taste. Shuixian will be, of course, much more floral. It'll be a bit sweeter. It'll be a bit more ethereal in some ways. So as I said, we're going to expect those tree bark notes, toasted brown rice, a subtle roasted fruit, perhaps on the more dried fruit side of things. We can expect perhaps some raisins or something like that, and of course the mineral undertone, which is the backbone of every single Yancha. Okay, so generally the older the bush and the more careful one is with the roast, if it is roasted by a master roaster, someone who knows what they're doing, the older the bush and the more careful the roast, the more the tea moves into that floral brightness. So when I tasted this tea a while ago, I got a bit of that. It had that, I would say, like bread sweet, like a tinge of forest floor taste, but not in a way that you would expect or get from a ripe pouring, which it's more like earthy, like wet earth. It'll be very, very woods tasting. So yeah, let's go straight into business. So here I'm going to use the Guy one. I think this is the first time I feature the Guy one. I generally use the other teapot, but today I wanted to use the Guy one. I didn't feel like using it. I'm not going to rinse. I am just going to go straight into brewing. I don't like so for some things I don't feel the need to rinse. I generally, in most cases, I typically don't rinse. I will rinse, like for example, when we have a lot of tea dust, or for example, when we're dealing with the tea that's very, very compressed. Some Taiwanese oolongs that are very compressed will need a bit of rinsing, and pu'er will need a bit of rinsing. But for most cases, I'll just do a longer first steeping. That'll do just fine. So, first of all, the dry leaf aroma. Let me focus. Okay, let's see. So the aromas I get. Well, we get that very floral forward aroma, a bit of orchids, and like kind of jasmine-like undertone. We get a bit of wood on the sweeter side, type of sandalwood. Generally, when I taste the wood and it's on the sweeter side, I compare it to sandalwood. Now let's see. what else I get? I get a very slight fruity note as well on the dried side of things. It kind of reminds me of raisins, like raisins that have been, good raisins, not like cheap raisins, but good raisins. Reminds me of that. A tinge of like chocolate, but a very little tinge. There's no, apparent roast note that I can pick up. So let's go straight into business now. So let's put my filter here. Let me make sure everything's focused. It's focused. Yes, it is. Very well. Let's go with our first steeping then. And as I said, everything has been preheated before I began the video, so let's go. Generally, we'll just go around here, and that will be about it. I think that'll work. I think it'll do now. Yeah, right now will do. So okay, this is clean. Let me write this out. Okay, let's pour it in. My trusty vape. Okay, there we go. Looks very good. Looks good. Now let me smell the pitcher I use to see what notes I get. Well, a lot of more. I'm getting much more of that wood prominence, and there's a bit of a pine resin aroma as well that I'm detecting. Like, if you've had like the oil of any coniferous plant, it doesn't have to be necessarily pine. I think it can be the fir as well. Fir as well. It has that kind of smell. Very aquatic. I think it goes along with the first character of the tea's name, which is Shui. Well, I'm not pronouncing it right, but it's Shui, and that's water. So let's see. Shuixian, Laocong, Old Bush, Shuixian. Let's see how it tastes. Okay, very smooth tea. The liquor feels good in my mouth. I'm getting a floral bouquet, though I think that the most noticeable floral note would be something that reminds me of jasmine. Very soft wood, like very sandalwood. Very not very sandalwood. It has that sandalwood note. I find it to be quite pleasant. A bit of dried fruits. The racing note is prominent, but the chocolatey note I got is even more prominent now. It's a very complex, very layered tea. A tinge of sweetness that's kind of reminds me of like, how the tobacco flower smells and has a bit of a sweetish smell, but with that tobacco profile, something like that. Okay, let's go with our sip and steeping to see how the tea evolved. And I'm drinking kind of slow just because I'm trying to savor the tea. I think it's very good. It's very tasty. Very tasty indeed. So let's see how it evolves. Let's see if I begin to detect that minerality that Yancha has. Let's see. Yeah. Now with this second steeping, you get kind of like what you got on the first, but of course much more punchier, though it's still very, very smooth tea. Very smooth. The liquor feels good. It's not super dense, but it just feels good in the mouth. It's very soft, and I like that quite a bit. It has a very soft feeling on my palate. It coats my tongue and mouth very well. The returning sweetness is noticeable. The Wuyishan, the tea really does come back. Raisins, wood, forest floor in the drier side, flowers, jasmine, orchids. You're getting all that with this tea. So I think, what I think is it a good representative of what Shuixian should be? I think so. Let's go with one more steeping, okay? Very well. Laocong Shuixian, third steeping. Here we go. I am probably going to add like a few more seconds, just because I want now to push it a little bit. So let's see what we end up with. It won't be like that much longer. It'll just be like 5 or 6 more seconds. I think it's like 5 or 6 more seconds. There we go. There's a towel here. Try the guy one. Try the lid. Smell the leaves. Yeah. Now, when I smell the leaves, I am getting that mineral note. Very, very prominent mineral note. A tinge of roast, but rock. The rock note of Yancha. The Yan part of Yancha, the cliff part of Yancha. Okay, here we go. Steeping number 3. Let's see. What will we find now? Will it be good? Will it be bad? Let's see. Let's see. Okay. Okay, very well. I think I over poured myself, but don't you worry. Yeah. This is probably the best steeping. Very refreshing. Very refreshing, actually. I'm getting a bit of a very, an ever so slight, like minty, like Borneol note, which I think it's, I'm not sure if this tea usually has that type of note, but I'm getting a bit of a cooling effect going on, which I think is quite nice. I like it. It's a bit hot. Yeah. But overall, what are my thoughts on this tea? Because I'm not saying much now. Well, I can definitely see like how this is a more aged Shuixian bush, because, and you know, putting apart the fact that it's on the less roasted, you know, area of Yancha, it's on the less roasted side of Yancha, I do feel like it has a level of complexity that at least my usual daily Shuixian does not have. It doesn't have that level of complexity. Perhaps from it you'll get certain notes of pine resin and some florals, and the roast note, of course, is much more prevalent in that one. But in this one, I'm getting a very well layered mix of different notes, ranging from wood to cream to forest floor in the drier side. Perhaps you could say like dried leaves, a bit of honey, very, very sweet smelling flowers, And overall, I think this tea is very good. I like it quite a bit. And with that, I'm going to conclude this video. Thank you very much for listening once again to my musings, my impressions on different teas. This was, once again, Laocong Shuixian. Thank you very, very much for listening to me. Let me have one last sip before I close the video, just to... Now that it has cooled down, yeah, this is good. Now you're getting that, the Yanyun, the rock rime, the kind of lingering rock taste at the bottom of my throat. I'm getting that now. So yeah, thank you very much as always for watching me, for listening to me ramble on about tea, and I hope you have, as always, a great day, afternoon, evening, depending on when and where you're seeing me. I always say that. Thank you very much. Bye bye.